All right, so this is Unit 2, Homework 2, Standard and Slope-Intercept Form. So looking at number 1, they want us to take each equation and put it in standard form. Let's do a quick refresh. Standard form looks like ax plus by equals c with a couple of conditions that have to be met. First of all, a has to be greater than or equal to 1. In other words, a has to be positive. Another condition, the a, the b, and the c have to have a GCF of 1, meaning there's not a number that will divide into a, b, and c other than 1. And the third condition is a, b, and c have to be integers. In other words, they can't be fractions and they can't be decimals. All right, number 1. It's given to me in slope-intercept form. I want to put it in standard form. So in other words, the x and the y have to be on the same side. So you're going to subtract this 6x from both sides, and you're going to get a negative 6x plus y equals negative 4. The problem now is that my a is a negative, so we have to fix that by multiplying everything by negative 1. And then that's going to give us the final answer of 6x minus y equals 4. All right, second problem. Everything's in the right spot. X's, Y's, constant. My A is positive. 5, 15, 75, they're all whole numbers. But what you do notice is 5, 15, and 75 are all divisible by 5. So we got to first divide everything by 5, which is going to give us x equals x plus 3y equals 15. And now we're in standard form. All right, number 3. What I'll do first is get my constants all on the right side. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides, and that's going to give me the equation 4x equals 9y plus 3. Now we need to get that y over here by subtracting it from both sides, which will give you 4x minus 9y equals 3. A is positive. 493, those are all whole numbers. 493, they're not divisible by anything other than 1. So this is my final answer. With number 4, the issue here, everything's in the right spot. X, Y, constant. The issue is these are not whole numbers. So we take a look at the denominator, 5, 4, 2. Our job is to figure out, okay, what is a number that 5, 4, and 2 will divide into, and that number is 20. So we're going to take the whole equation and multiply everything by 20. So 3 times 20 is 60, but then divided by 5 is going to give us 12x. 1 times 20 is 20, divided by 4 gives us 5y, and half of 20 is 10, but it's a negative 1/2, so negative 10. And that would be our final answer, because all other conditions have been met. All right, 5 through 10, I'm asked to put the equation in slope-intercept form and then graph the line. All right, number 5 is already in slope-intercept form. My slope is negative 5 over 6, and my y-intercept is at 0, 4. So we start with the y-intercept, plotting a point at 0, 4. From that point, I'm going to go down 5 to the right 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which puts me right there. Take a straight edge, connect your 2 points. And there's your graph. All right, number 6. They've given me the equation in function notation, but remember that's the same as saying y equals 3x minus 7. It's just another way of saying y. And it's already in the right form. So my slope is 3, or think of it as 3 over 1, rise over run if you need to. My y-intercept is at the coordinates 0, -7. So on the y-axis down at -7, we put a point, and from this point we go up 3 over 1. If you need another point, up 3 over 1. And then simply take and connect your points. There's your graph. All right, number 7. So here my equation is not in the right form. So I need to start by subtracting x from both sides to give me the equation -y equals -x plus 8. We don't want -y, we want +y. So we basically multiply everything by -1, which is going to make this a +y equals +x minus 8. So my slope is 1. My y-intercept is at 0, -8. So we start on -8, and from there up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, so on and so forth. Connect the dots. You have your graph. All right, number 8. Similar story. This is not in the right form, so we're going to start by subtracting 12x from both sides, and that's going to give us 8y equals -12x plus 28. At this point, we got to divide everything by 8, which gives me the final equation, y equals -12 over 8. 8 doesn't divide into 12, but 12 over 8 simplifies by a factor of 4, which is going to give us a -3 over 2x. Same thing here. 8 does not divide into 28 evenly, but both are divisible by 4. So this turns into +7 over 2. So my slope is -3 over 2, and my y-intercept is at 0, 7/2. All right, so we start with 7/2. If this was a 6 over 2, that would be 3, but it's more, so it's going to be in between 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, right in the middle of 3 and 4. From there, we're going to go down 3 and over 2. Just keep in mind that we are in between. So when I go down 3, I'm going to stay in between. So down 1, 2, 3, and then over 2. 1, 2. That would be my next point. If I needed another one, same thing, staying in between. 1, 2, 3, over 2. So your dots are going to be between the 2 lines on the graph. Connect your points. There's your graph. All right, number 9. So a couple of things here. I need to get the x and the -2 on the other side. So we're going to subtract the x and add the 2, which would give you -2y equals -x plus 2. Now divide everything by -2. We get y equals +1 over 2x minus 1. On the y-intercept, well, let me get my points here. Let's see. My slope is 1/2, and my y-intercept is at 0, 1. So on the y-axis, we put a point on the 1. From there, I go up 1 over 2. If I need another point, up 1 over 2. Connect your dots. There's your graph. Number 10. Let's see here. So negative 5x equals 2y. Well, that's the same as saying 2y equals negative 5x. Just flipping it around. Divide both sides by 2, we get y equals negative 5 over 2x. So my slope is negative 5 over 2. My y-intercept, notice there is no plus or minus anything, so my y-intercept is 0. So my y-intercept is at 0, 0. So we start at the origin, 0, 0, and from there I'm going to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. If I wanted another point, notice I can't go down and over because I run out of space. So I could do the exact opposite. Instead of down and right, I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and left 2. And we'll get another point for our line. Looks a little something like that. All right, other side. Now what they want me to do is to determine whether or not these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Remember, if two lines are parallel, their slopes are the same. If they are perpendicular, their slopes are opposite and flipped. And if it's neither of those cases, then the lines are neither parallel or perpendicular. So what we need to figure out is what is the slope of each line. So if I start with number 11, I'm going to figure out the slope by putting this in slope-intercept form. So I need to subtract that x from both sides to get y equals negative x plus 8. This equation is already in the right form. Y equals mx plus b. What's the slope of this line? Negative 1. What's the slope of this line? Negative 1. Those are the same. So my lines are parallel. Number 12. Rewriting this, we're going to get a negative 6y equals negative 9x minus 20. Divide everything by negative 6. That gives us y equals negative 9, 6. Nope, positive. Phrase that. Let me just do it this way. So negative 9 over negative 6x minus 20 over negative 6. Probably could clean this up as we're going through it, but cleaning it up now, we're going to get y equals, so negative 9 over negative 6. Well, first of all, that's positive. 9 over 6 becomes 3 over 2x. These two negatives are going to cancel to become a positive, so we're going to get a plus 20 over 6, which is divisible by 2. So what, 10 over 3? All right. More importantly, what's the slope of this line? 3/2. Looking at the other line, we're almost in slope-intercept form. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide everything by negative 3. So you would get y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 11 over 3. Again, the important thing is this line right here, or the slope of that line, which is a negative 2/3. So 3/2, negative 2/3, those are opposite and flipped. Therefore, the two lines are perpendicular. All right, number 13, first equation needs to be rewritten. So the y over here, let's do it this way. Let's write this as 14 plus y equals 2x. So now all I got to do is subtract the 14 to get y equals 2x minus 14. Second equation, I'm going to subtract the 4x from both sides to get 2y equals negative 4x plus 10. 10. Now divide everything by 2 to get y equals negative 2x plus 5. The slope of this line is negative 2. The slope of this line is positive 2. Well, they're not the same, and they're not opposite and flipped. So they're not parallel, they're not perpendicular. It's neither. All right, number 14, we have two special cases. Y equals a number, y equals a number. Remember, on a graph, y equals a number is a horizontal line. So this line is horizontal, this line is horizontal. On a graph, if you have two lines that are horizontal, they're never going to intersect. So guess what that makes the lines? Parallel. All right. 15. Now we're asked to graph using x and y intercepts. So remember to find the x-intercept. We set the y equal to 0. So take the equation, replace the y with 0, solve for x. So this turns into 0 equals 2x minus 2. Here we would add 2 to both sides to get 2 equals 2x, which means x equals 1. X-intercept is a point, so we write it as 1, 0. For the y-intercept, similar story, but instead of setting the y equal to 0, we set the x equal to 0 and solve for y. So back to the original equation, replace x with 0, we would get y equals 2 times 0 minus 2. Well, that's just y equals 0 minus 2, which gives us y equals negative 2. Again, as an ordered pair, that would be 0, negative 2. All right, so plot the 2 points, 1, 0, which is here. Plot the point 0, negative 2, which is here. Take a straight edge and connect the 2 points. So we get the line that looks something like this. All right, number 16, similar story. I'm just going to start with the x-intercept. So replace the y with 0. So this turns into 6x plus 5 times 0 equals negative 15. Well, that just means 6x equals negative 15, which means x equals negative 15 over 6. So we have the point negative 15 sixths, 0. All right, for the y-intercept, hold on, made a mistake. Double checking. What can I do to that negative 15 over 6? I can reduce by a factor of 3 to give me a negative 5 over 2. So let me fix that. So negative 5 over 2. That's my point. Graphing it, it would give you the same thing, but we should always reduce fractions if we can. For the y-intercept, remember we set the x equal to 0. So we would get 6 times 0 plus 5y equals 15, which is just 5y equals 15, which is y equals 3. So we get the point 0, 3. Take the 2 points, plot them. 0, 3 is here. Negative 5 over 2 is going to be between, so if that had been a 6, 6 over 2 is negative 3. So 5 over 2 is going to be just shy of negative 3. So 1, 2, 3, and back it up just a little bit. Get the point right there, in between -2 and -3. Again, we're ready for the straight edge. Connect your 2 points. Get your straight line. All right, number 17. Let's see here. Find the x-intercept first. So again, set the y equal to 0. This is going to turn into 16 plus 9x equals 4 times 0, which is just 16 plus 9x equals 0. Subtract that 16 so we can work to get the x by itself. It's going to give you 9x equals -16, which means x equals -16 over 9, which cannot be reduced. So we would get the final answer of -16 over 9, 0. That's my point. Now for the y-intercept, we're going to take and replace the x with 0. So we would get 16 plus 9 times 0 equals 4y. Well, that's just 0. 16 plus 0 is 16, so it turns into 16 equals 4y. So y equals 4. So we would have the point 0, 4. So 0, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is there on the y-axis. -16 over 9. If that had been a -18, that would put me at -2. But it's less than, so it's going to be just shy of -2. So in between -2 and -1. So that's -1, that's -2, but again, we're in between. So right about in there. Again, as long as you're between the correct two numbers, you're fine. So I'm going to now graph. So connect the 2 dots. And your line will look something like that. All right, last one, number 18. Okay, so if I wanted to, because I don't want to deal with fractions, if I wanted to, I could just go ahead and clear the fraction. So I could multiply everything here by 3. That's going to give me a 7x minus y equals 3. So I could use that instead of not having to worry about those fractions. So with my x-intercept, that's going to give me 7x minus 0 equals 3, which means 7x equals 3, which means x equals 3 over 7. So I have the point 3/7, 0. For the y-intercept, take this equation and replace the x with 0. That's going to give us 7 times 0 minus y equals 3. Well, that's just going to turn into 0 minus y, which is -y equals 3, which means positive y is -3. So I have the coordinate 0, -3. So on the graph, 0, -3 is here. 3 over 7, that's going to fall between 0 and 1, which is going to be in between here. Connect the 2 points, and you have your line. Voila. All right, so that was homework 2-2, standard and slope intercept 4.